The fundamental truth that has remained the same throughout my career is that great advertising still works. But one, to your point, that has been permanently disrupted now is this piece about the last click jail. Relying on last click was a way of understanding where a particular last touch or a last conversion attribution came from, say, a decade ago. But brands are realizing that that's like trying to understand a movie by only watching the final scene.
Right.
You're missing the entire story of what really happened. And that piece is permanently disrupted now.
Welcome to Retail Remix. If you think Snapchat is just for young people or has been outpaced by other social platforms, today's guest has nearly 1 billion reasons why you might want to reconsider. Siddharth Malhotra, VP of SMB at Snap, has had a front row seat to the golden age of digital advertising. First at Grammarly, then building global ad businesses at Meta, and now as a growth partner for small and mid-market brands at Snap. Today, we're digging into the evolution of Snapchat, the Hot Wheels problem of marketing metrics, and why this platform's community, which has grown from students into 30-somethings with massive spending power, is positioned squarely at the next frontier of performance-driven marketing. Welcome back to Retail Remix. As always, I'm your host, Nicole Silberstein, Editor-in-Chief at Retail Touchpoints, and today we are chatting with Siddharth Malhotra of Snap. Sid, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Snap?
Yeah, I oversee our global small and mid-market ads business. And what that means is basically being the number one growth partner for all small and mid-sized businesses globally who are trying to find new customers. I'm an engineer by trade, Nicole, but an SMB advocate at heart, where I've worn many hats. I have gone from co-founding a SaaS platform to before SaaS was in the lexicon, to building the SMB business at Facebook to millions of businesses using that service. And today, my focus is ensuring Snap becomes that ultimate growth partner for small and mid-sized businesses. My main goal is to ensure that we at Snap don't lose sight of our customers' goal, which is helping them with their number one challenge. And every time I pick up the phone, I go and meet customers in the field, they're telling me the number one challenge is that finding and retaining new customers. And that's really where Snap comes in. And we're doing that by building products and programs to help businesses do that easily and driving the real results for their business. I gotta say, I love my job. That's what gets me out of bed every single day.
Oh, it's always great when you can say that. So I do think most people think of Snapchat more from the consumer angle, so more like personal messaging. But you have brands like Steve Madden and Hibbett seeing really massive success on the platform. What's the biggest misconception that you think brands have about Snap before they start working with your team?
Oh, that Snap is just for kids.
Right.
That's really the biggest misconception that brands keep asking me about. Look, our community is literally growing up with us right now. And this generation now has 5 trillion in spending power. And not many people know this, but Snapchat has nearly 1 billion monthly active users using this service.
Wow.
And in fact, when you look at those who use the service daily, we've nearly doubled since the start of the pandemic. And that's quite rare in our peer group of services around the world. And so what that means is we've got that momentum. We've got new people coming to the platform and using the service. And we've literally gotten a community that loves us and is literally growing up with us. Snapchat as service is a teenager, right? And so if someone joined this platform, say about 10 years ago when they were in their college, they're now in their early to mid 30s. They're buying a home, they're starting a family, and that purchasing power is growing. And that's literally why brands use Snapchat. In fact, I was chatting recently with Brandon, the co-founder of Javi Coffee, a direct-to-consumer protein coffee brand. I'm sure many people have heard about his awesome product. And he was talking about how he's constantly chasing new customers. And he's coming to Snapchat to do it. I asked him why. And he intuitively got what stats are now proving to us. He said, you have incrementality. And when we asked our teams to look into this question a couple of years ago, and what we found out was, well, that's actually true. 40% of daily US Snapchatters who are 16 to 64 years old will not be on TikTok today.
Interesting.
And 80% will not be on Pinterest today. And so what that means is that brands can reach people on our service that they're not reaching elsewhere. And that is significant. So we have the scale. We have almost 1 billion people on the platform. We have people who are incremental to other services. But what I think makes Snapchat very special is the attention and engagement span. You know this, Nicole. Snapchat by design is a communication platform. Chat is in our name, right? And so Snapchat are really snapping their friends and family with like little joyful moments, authentic, real connections. But they're also deeply engaged. How engaged? We asked ourselves a very fun question here. I don't know if you remember this, but some time ago, this stat was released about how many selfies were created with iPhones globally. That number is 500 billion selfies.
Oh my God.
That's
I haven't heard that.
selfies.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but makes sense, right? All of
Yeah.
us have a lot of selfies.
Yeah.
I was just on a trip with my kids and yeah, we took a few of them. So the question we asked ourselves was, well, how many selfies on Snapchat? Because we opened to the camera. The answer was over 1 trillion selfies.
Wow.
And that's trillion with a T. I'm not mispronouncing it.
Yeah.
And that is the type of engagement that people get on Snapchat and that brands are just missing out on, right? Ultimately, what we're seeing is that some of the fastest growing brands, take, for example, Comfort, they have that viral airplane hoodie. I love it. I have like 10 of them right now. They're using Snapchat to do just that, to dive into this scaled incremental audience that's absolutely engaged to drive up real results. And what Comfort did was drive a 32% increase in revenue on Snapchat.
So beyond the incrementality, the audience, what distinguishes advertising on Snapchat from other platforms that brands are using, Meta, TikTok, Google, things like that?
Yeah, look, ultimately, it's about getting business results, right? When platforms like Meta and TikTok that you mentioned are doing that, we want brands to be absolutely cognizant of overall results in the portfolio. And what we're seeing is that when brands use Snapchat, they get these incremental new customers that they're not getting elsewhere. And it is because of the service, there's many different ad placements. We have a chat service. We have a feed service. We have maps where friends understand and love to engage with each other on where to get that next cup of coffee.
Very cool.
Snapchat is a service that rolls all these utilities into one. That is usually not the case with our peer services. And brands are intuitively getting that ends up driving. People are using both thumbs. Right? Imagine when you're like, the listeners can't see me right now, but imagine me holding my phone with my two thumbs rather than one.
Yep.
That's active engagement versus just passively scrolling through endless scrolls of content and videos.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that Snapchat has always been known for is its AR filters. I mean, I still remember having so much fun playing around with them when Snapchat first hit the scene. And of course, they've advanced quite a lot since those early days of like rainbow barf and dog lens. But
yes,
how are advertisers leveraging that capability, which also feels to me like a little bit of a differentiator and continues to be really cutting edge?
Yeah, look, first of all, the dog filter never goes out of fashion.
Right.
So
rainbow barf did, though.
Yeah, rainbow barf, yes. I agree with that one, yes. I didn't quite understand the craze even back then. But hey, I think of AR as a pocket fitting room. If you're a brand today and you're selling a product that people can feel and touch, your two most viable options are to put it on a physical shelf, right, in a big box retail store, or to put it as a tile on a website. AR crushes both of them and merges it.
Yeah.
Because it literally allows you to try a product on in your hands on a device that you carry along with you every single day. And it's not just young people getting this message. Everyone's getting this message very easily. In fact, I was chatting with my mother-in-law a few years ago. She's a retired school teacher. And to keep herself busy, she started a small business of exporting Indian-made footwear to the world, but really didn't have the wherewithal of a big brand or even a very fast-growing e-commerce brand to get shelf space. And so I was showing her this AR to try on a pair of sneakers. And she said something so poignant to me that has stuck with me. She said, all that's left now is for people to feel how comfortable my shoes are.
Right. AR can't do that.
Yeah. AR can't do that, but it can do pretty much everything than that, right? And so what that allowed my mother-in-law's small business to do was that it didn't let her compete on the shelf where she couldn't have found the space at the price point that retail stores were charging. But it allowed consumers to really see how those shoes could fit into their life right from their pocket. And what this is doing ultimately, Nicole, is democratizing innovation. 350 million people are using AR daily, and that's making it easy for brands of all sizes, small, big, large, to move from that try-on stage to that transaction stage. And ultimately, that's what drives real success. I would be completely remiss if I didn't mention that the technology underlying the AR is AI.
Right.
And Snapchat, as you mentioned, has been doing it for a decade, right before AI was the cool word in the lexicon.
Yes.
And so what we're seeing is that when brands use these technologies to their advantage, they can drive those real results. You don't always need to use AR though. And I want to be clear about that. In fact, many of the businesses that we work with start with something much smaller and much more easier. They're looking to run straight performance campaigns. So take Hibbett, a sporting good retailer. They leverage Snap's dynamic product ads, which essentially used a pixel-based personalization to allow ads to be served to the right new customers in market and ultimately drive a 31% increase in revenue. And the technology underlying it is also AI. It pulls in products from a catalog, joins it with a well-firing pixel, which a platform can then read signals on and say, all right, now I'm going to show this particular sporting good to this person who's in the market at the right time, and in turn driving that outcome. So yes, brands are using AR, but they don't necessarily need to use AR to drive results on our platform.
Okay, so now you were Grammarly's first head of marketing. Then you spent 8 years at Meta building out their SMB ads business globally. So you've been part of kind of the golden age of digital ads and also that post iOS 14 shift, which really changed the game from a transparency and a tracking perspective. I'm curious what you found to be like the biggest fundamental truth about digital marketing that has remained the same throughout all of these iterations of your career, and also what has been really permanently disrupted.
Oh, that's a fantastic question.
Oh, thank
One
you.
that I grapple with every day. Well, look, the fundamental truth that has remained the same throughout my career is that great advertising still works.
Mm.
But one, to your point, that has been permanently disrupted now is this piece about the last click jail. Relying on last click was a way of understanding where a particular last touch or a last conversion attribution came from, say, a decade ago. But brands are realizing that that's like trying to understand a movie by only watching the final scene.
Right.
You're missing the entire story of what really happened. And that piece is permanently disrupted now. And it's also a very, really interesting time because and I'm going to date myself here a little bit, my times in marketing started when TV was the ultimate gold standard of
Right.
marketing and measurement, right? And there was this adage that said, I know TV advertising, half of it works, but I just don't know which half, right? That still remains the case. I know digital advertising works with a little bit of a qualifier that we can now have a lot more data at our disposal, but it doesn't really mean that we have full understanding if we're just using the last click method. And there is no one method that is perfect, I would say. Yet what I'm finding over and over again over the last 5 or so years is that our partners are working with platforms and third-party measurement systems to get a more complete look at their customer journey. And so they're not just looking at last click, they're moving beyond that last click jail to a more high definition cross-channel reality to ultimately understand how the customer finally got to their product and bought it from them.
Mm-hmm.
That part is completely broken and is changing now.
So this is a perfect segue because I've heard you before talk about the Hot Wheels problem. I think it's such a great way to really illustrate the challenge here. Do you mind sharing the Hot Wheels problem with our listeners?
Thank you for bringing that up, and my 8 and now 9-year-old would love that too. So here's what happened. This was about a year ago. My son had just turned 5, and our then 8-year-old daughter decided to be the chief gift decider for the first time in her life. And now she knows he loves Hot Wheels because he's been watching a show about the cars. So she started researching Hot Wheels videos from these young creators that she knows he loves. And then ultimately checked a few marketplaces that you and I would go to, even saved something to a cart, by the way, but waited to watch the price for one of these 2 Hot Wheel garages that she was going to buy. And that's a dad win right there. And so finally, when she was satisfied with one of the price drops, she bought one of them. That's a pretty normal buying journey, right?
Yeah.
We look at something we like, we research it, we find it, and we take a few moments and then we buy it. But ultimately, who do you think got the credit in that journey? That's the question I asked myself. Did the show that inspired my son to watch Hot Wheels or love it get the credit? Did the search engine query that my daughter did on my phone Did the ad she got in that young creator video, or was it the marketplace that got that last click?
Right.
Right? That cross-channel unified measurement system that now exists in the market can help you solve this who gets the credit challenge. Now, every part of the journey shouldn't get equal credit. Each product is different. Each service buying is different. Some products are bought in days. Some products and services are bought in a month. What marketers really need to decide for themselves is what's the right, appropriate cross-channel measurement system that they would like to use. And so what we found is that to solve that ultimate Hot Wheels garage problem, you must partner with third-party measurement players. And there are many in the market, right? A few that we've worked with are Phosphor, are Northbeam, Triple Whale, are WorkMagic. And what they're doing is they're understanding what each channel and each click got as an attribution credit for that customer journey. And in fact, Phosphor recently reported Snapchat as the top channel for customer acquisition, new customer acquisition, on both cost per acquisition and return on ad spend basis. That would be a surprise, right? For many marketers who've been relying on some other platforms to drive that last click attribution piece. And so what that Hot Wheel problem proves to me, more than my daughter being a very good bargain hunter, is that the buying journey is a relay race. It's not a sprint. And if you only credit that last click, you're ignoring the runners who ultimately won the race for you.
Yeah, your daughter does sound incredibly sophisticated, like more so than me. You've really trained her in online shopping well. You should watch out for that when she gets into her teen years.
I'm quite worried. I'm quite worried.
So now at Snap, you work primarily with smaller brands. I'm curious, what is one thing that like a small mom and pop retailer or a DTC brand can do on Snapchat that maybe a massive corporation like Coca-Cola really even couldn't?
Oh, they have this awesome superpower that you and I know about, which is the agility to experiment with something really new at lightning quick speed, right? Something that would take a massive corporation a quarter to even requisite as an internal tool in their system. A small and mid-sized business would try out next Tuesday.
Right.
So let's take a step back from Snapchat for a second, right? I actually think in this time of a threshold technology like AI, where you're working with something that is getting better by the day, but it's still not there where you think it can replace another part of your business or your product tech stack. But suddenly one day it will be, and that will allow SMBs to succeed like we've never seen in our lifetime. So if you're a small and mid-sized business now than even 5 years ago or 3 years ago or 2 years ago, or even I want to say last July, it's so much easier to start a business. It's so much easier to build your product, take your product or your application to market. You could even wait on, by the way, hiring for a little longer because the barriers to entry are so low for starting, for using an AI agent, where it opens a whole world of possibilities to experiment. And why I know this is because I've worked with large businesses in my career. And ultimately, their ability to ingest innovation that disrupts the way that they've been working is very low.
Yeah.
A small and mid-sized business thrives on innovation, thrives on disruption. In fact, that is their MO. And so it's incredibly energizing to see brands, small brands actually take advantage of that. And so this feeds into why I love working for small and medium businesses here at Snap, because they're typically very nimble, very willing to experiment, and they see the results. And because they're frugal, if the results work, they quickly move into that area and lean in very, very heavily. And so I think your question about why is it that they would be successful is an incredibly poignant one for all large corporations today to think about very carefully.
Yeah.
And not only is this agility, Nicole, very accelerated by AI, what I'm also seeing is that it's enabling, as I mentioned, because we have AI rightfully coded into our systems right now, helping businesses drive that impact so much easier. So we rolled out smart campaign solutions some time ago. We're building AI agents to help small businesses get started on advertising with Snapchat so much easier. It's going to take valuable time and energy away from doing this thing to be put back into running a business. And internally, we have this tagline that AI plus Snapchat equal to an awesome playing field.
Right.
Because a small brand with a very smart strategy can now truly out-execute a Goliath in a way that we've never seen in our lifetimes. And again, I'm dating myself here, but I think we're about to see that happen in the next year.
I love that. I love to hear such a positive outlook for small businesses because with everything going on in the world right now, you hear a lot about how hard it is for them out there. And as somebody who is in touch with these smaller businesses every day, I imagine you kind of have your finger on the pulse of that community. So I wanted to just take the chance to check in and hear a little bit about what you're hearing about the mood among SMBs today. What are they worried about? What are they excited about? I think it's nice always to get a little pulse check on that huge segment of our economy that we don't always get to hear from.
Yeah, look, ultimately, no business is immune from what's happening in the world today. There is economic policy change that's happening right here at home in the US, but also affecting global economies. There's, of course, geopolitical tension that's brewing around the world. And what all of this does is create not only hardships and suffering for communities in the world, but it creates a different problem for businesses, which is uncertainty. They can't plan for 6 to 12 months as they were, say, about 2 years ago. Again, what we're hearing from small and mid-sized businesses is because frugality and because agility is in their DNA, they're able to respond to these changes and handle them much better and with much greater resilience than some of the larger corporations where their systems were so reliant on a very stable, certain economic order that disrupting it not only just disrupts one part of their business, it really disrupts all of their business model. Now, doesn't mean small and medium businesses don't have their share of challenges, right? As I mentioned, their number one challenge is continuing to find new customers and retaining them. Now, profitability and margins are a question too, particularly if you're a business selling atoms versus bits. So you're selling something physical, right? And that's crossing boundaries right now, then selling a service or a particular utility via an application. But what we're still finding a lot of these mid-size and small brands do really well, Nicole, is understand where in their supply chain can they find innovation. So we're hearing brands do futures contracts between 6 to 12 months to lock their supply at a certain price point, such that they can maintain a margin for 6 to 12 months. What we're hearing is that brands are now relooking at all part of their expenditure, including advertising, to say, can I now get a return on that spend that's higher than what I was getting even earlier? And that's where these brands are finding Snapchat to be an even more able partner. Because what they're finding is for a long period of time, they really didn't audit their marketing spend because they thought it was working. Last click jail, CPAs being very stable. In this new world, they're looking into marginality. They're saying, where do I spend the next $10,000, next $100,000, next $1 million? And what do I get for that? Not for the blended, say, $20 million of spend they have in the year. And this is the shift I'm seeing happen over the last 1 year, very deeply accelerated.
Right. So you've mentioned before that you see chat as kind of the next frontier of performance marketing. So you're at the right company, I guess, if that ends up being true. How do you see chat platforms evolving in the future from a place for friends to a place for commerce?
Yeah, look, chat feed is the new frontier, in my opinion, because it's where brands are moving from just being a logo and that screen that I talked about a few minutes ago to being a trusted participant in a conversation. And if you go back to brands, again, of all sizes, being part of the customer conversation is what they've been craving about. They just haven't gotten that through the digital ads service over the last 20 or so years, right? Mostly becomes a tile or a search query. Now, chat, as you rightly pointed out, is in our name, Snapchat, right? And chat is where Snapchatters are spending a lot of that engaged time. And so what's really happening here is that these conversations, because they organically happen in that chat feed, and because we've started giving brands now proximity to these conversations, it creates that personal connection. Ultimately, what we're seeing is that 86% of social media users in the US are open to getting messages from brands on apps like Snapchat. And when they're open to hearing in a service they love, we know that creates conversions and that creates real results. And we are seeing conversions rise when brands use chat feed. And ultimately, what I'm seeing now in more and more happen in my conversations with brand leaders and businesses around the world is for those that have leaned into chat, they want that additional unfair advantage to stay with them for a second. They're saying, you know what, Sid, it's okay that my competitor is sleeping is sleeping on chat because it gives me the edge to be
Right.
the first in this new era of communication.
Hopefully they're not listening to this podcast.
Well, and I think ultimately, if they are sleeping on it, they're doing it at a risk to their own brand success over a period of time.
Right.
And so if you haven't experimented with chat, and I don't just mean Snapchat, but you haven't experimented with chat-based commerce or chat-based advertising, now is the time to do so. Consumer sentiment is moving more in that direction than just the endless doom scroll and all the negativity that may come from a result of it.
Tell me how the mechanics of this work, though. Like, how does a brand enter that kind of communication with a user? Is it a blast chat out on Snapchat to a targeted user base, or how does that work?
Yeah, so chat is offered just like any other placement in our service right now if you're an advertiser. So you really don't have to do much more than saying, all right, show my ad in chat if you think this user is going to be engaging with my message and product that I'm selling. So for an advertiser, you really don't have to think a lot more than that. However, there are a few best practices to think through. Number one, because chat is more personal and it is more conversational and casual, don't come back with a message that's a 15-second spot video.
Right.
Think of very small bite-sized content that can be consumed by this consumer in a very casual one-on-one setting, how you would talk to a friend. Second, think of immediate action that a consumer can take, because ultimately chats are very ephemeral. Chats are very in the moment. And so what you really don't want is them to think about 3 steps down the line. Move them along the journey of whatever your next step is. So if your next step is, well, now that you know about my new brand of olive oil, right, and its health benefits, here's how to learn about the recipes. If you've learned about the recipes, here's how to buy a trial pack. If you've taken a trial pack, here's how to subscribe. And take them to the next action that a user can take in the moment and make it as frictionless as possible. Ultimately, it's about understanding that chat behavior is personal, ephemeral, and very casual. It's not the same as consuming a ton of video content where
Right.
you're just inserting yourself between a few videos.
What about the two-way nature of that channel, though, too? The fact that some users might want to chat back a question, and how can brands, I guess, how does a brand manage that? Like, they send out a chat and then somebody says, well, but tell me more about your olive oil. How does that work?
So we are very early in our journey right now, Nicole. We literally just launched the Sponsored Snaps ad product a year or so ago. So we're experimenting with what our community is liking and loving to engage with, at the same time what brands want to do, right? This behavior is new. So we are experimenting with a lot of ideas. We're taking our feedback from our advertisers and our consumer community at the same time to understand what other features to build. Right now, it's in a very nascent stage. And so as a brand, what we're asking you to do is to allow your ads to be run in the chat feed and give us feedback on how that is working for you. We are seeing conversions rise up, which is the ultimate metric if you're a small and mid-sized business that you care about. But we are open to hearing feedback, and we have many such feedback loops with existing advertisers right now. I think this journey is going to take a few years to ultimately build into this massive engine that we think it will be.
Okay. All right. Now, before we let you go, we have our mixtape section of more lighthearted questions. And I'm so excited to finally get to this question, the first one. So now you share a name with a very famous Bollywood actor. Do you ever get mistaken for Siddharth Malhotra, star of films such as Student of the Year and Sharsha? Or Shershaw, I guess.
I was awarded that award once, but not part of that movie, for sure. And sometimes that does happen when I check into a hotel and the staff, if they're familiar with that actor,
They get excited and then they see you.
They get excited and then they see me. Exactly. So my wife, my wife very, very humbly keeps reminding me there are perceptible differences, my dear. He's taller. And our kids think you're funnier, so I'll take that.
Yeah, I guess that's not bad, right?
Yes.
You have your own separate, important fan base.
That's correct.
Did your time at Grammarly ever lead to the development of any grammar or spelling pet peeves, things that just drive you crazy now?
Oh, absolutely. Look, English is a second language to me. I grew up in India, and Grammarly ruined me in the best way possible. I feel like I'm now treating every subject line like a tiny Super Bowl ad,
Oh.
literally figuring out where that Oxford comma needs to go. But my best one was affect versus effect. And it's not just it's not just the understanding of the word or the lexicon. It's because it turned out to be the single biggest search query that allowed new customers to discover Grammarly existed.
Oh my God. I mean, look, Sid, I am a native English speaker and a writer for a living, and sometimes I still have to double check if I'm using the right one. That's a tough one.
It is. And that's why I keep going back to affect versus effect. We're like, which one am I using today? Am I affected or am I affecting it?
What is your longest Snap streak, or does your job keep you too busy to even really use the platform for fun?
Oh, my longest one has to be with my wife, who I will tell you works for a company that builds a chat product too. I won't name them.
Oh, okay.
But between the two of us, she has switched services. She uses Snapchat now for the most part. My mom, who's 75, uses Snapchat for the most part. So yeah, we have a lot of streaks going on in the family right now. And it's because it's just ephemeral. It's light, it's fun, it's happy. It's none of the negativity that happens elsewhere.
And I bet that's true for many users. I think who you have streaks with are probably the closest people in your life that you just have fun sharing these things with each other. Yeah.
Exactly right. Yes.
So your Snapchat handle is the SMB guy. If you had to pick a different guy persona to represent, what would it be?
Ooh, different than SMB guy. Well, then it'll have to be a gardener, although I don't know what the guy handle was. The gardener guy. I like to get my hands dirty, quite literally so, in my yard. So that's where I'm found every weekend. And I always have to remind myself to check under my fingernails before my first Monday morning meeting. Because as a gardener, that's the one thing that you miss out on.
Well, we're getting into your season, so I guess we know what you'll be doing on the weekends.
Oh, exactly. Yes. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Sid, for spending some time with us today and taking us inside the world of Snap and Bollywood. It was really fun to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm very glad you didn't make me dance. And not that would play on the podcast too. But I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Now I wish I had. So thanks to all of you for joining us. As always, we'd love to continue the conversation with all of you on LinkedIn on the Retail Touchpoints page. Be sure to stop by and drop your take on the topics we covered today in the comments section and let us know who you want to hear from in future episodes. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you all soon. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Retail Remix. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app. Until next time, keep mixing it up.